Hey loves, I'm Marley Liss, and welcome to the Sensual Revolution. This is a global movement to reclaim sensual empowerment on an embodied and systemic level. My personal path of sensuality has not been easy. Shame around my body image, sexual abuse, and my queerness had me dissociated and numbed the heck out. It's been a big journey to get to where I am today, but I really have turned my pain to purpose. Along the way, I've learned our personal healing makes epic waves in this world. This podcast is here to remind you that your healing is selfless. When you learn to shed shame, love your body, and claim your worth, you pave the way for all people to do the same. Here, you can expect to hear from sexual educators and healers who work at the embodied level of sensual empowerment, as well as policymakers and justice leaders who work at the systemic level. It's all connected. So whether you're at the very beginning of your own sensual healing journey, or you're a sex-positive advocate and superstar, this community welcomes you. Let's come together and revolutionize this planet one loving, sensual step at a time. Hey loves, welcome back to another episode of the Sensual Revolution. I'm so excited for you to hear today's conversation. We have Nneka MacGregor on with us. This woman is truly one of my greatest role models in this life. She's doing so much amazing work around justice and healing and ending gender-based violence in our world. I wouldn't normally read a long, full-out bio, but she's just done so many epic things that we gotta do it. So Nneka is the Executive Director of WomenatthecentrE, which is a nonprofit organization created by and for women survivors of gender-based violence globally. Nneka is an advocate who works with governments, organizations to transform lives and build violence-free communities. In 2006, she was selected by the Lieutenant Governor of Ontario as one of 13 experts to review services provided to women and children. In 2016, she was appointed by the Canadian government to the Advisory Council on the Federal Strategy Against Gender-Based Violence. She also sits on the Board of Trustees of the Girl Child Network Worldwide. And also, she's an entrepreneur with over 25 years business experience. She is a partner of a conscious capitalism firm that does consulting for gender, equity, diversity, inclusion. Nneka and I first connected through our shared passions around alternatives to the punitive system, transformative and restorative justice, and that's definitely something that we talk about in this episode. You're going to hear about activism and actually embodying the peace that we're fighting for. You're going to learn about transformative justice and its roots in Black and transgender activism. Nneka gets super vulnerable and inspiring AF about her personal journey from victim to activist. We look at how to avoid burnout in doing change-making work. We talk about using anger as a superpower in dismantling systems of white supremacy and misogyny. We talk about canceling cancel culture and upholding standards for equity and inclusion, and Nneka even goes into her amazing work around helping male-identified perpetrators engage in accountability and shifting away from shame and blame. This is such a powerful conversation. I swear I've listened to it like 3 times, and it just gets more inspiring every single time. Nneka has such a gorgeous ability to dream and dream big when it comes to reimagining a world of justice and healing. So I'm super excited for this one. Before we dive in, I want to just share that the Sensual Wholeness Academy has officially begun. This is my 8-month group coaching program, and for the first time ever, we have a no doors closed policy, which means you can join at any point. So if you're someone who's wanting to receive more support around your own sensual empowerment journey, reclamation after trauma, or healing beyond body shame, if you're wanting to cultivate epic self-love within a global community of like-hearted women, this might be a really gorgeous fit for you. So you can go to the show notes and check out the link there, marleyliss.com/SWA, to get the details. You can sign up directly through the page, but you can also book a discovery call. This is a free one-to-one call with myself to receive personalized support in exploring whether the SWA is a fit for you. These are really gorgeous calls. You'll also see the link there in the show notes to book that call. So definitely always an honor to connect with you all and to support you. Let's get into this episode. And of course, if this inspires you, please do leave a review for us and share this so that we can amplify these amazing messages. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here with the exquisite, iconic, beautiful Nneka MacGregor, and her little cat is in the background doing all kinds of modeling poses. If you watch the video, you'll see it. Nneka, I'm so glad you're here. How are you today?
I am awesome. And Marley, I'm so excited to be here as well. It took us a minute to coordinate it, but we're doing it. So,
yeah,
this is wonderful. This is really wonderful.
I'm so excited. You are such an inspiration to me and so many humans. And I'm just so excited for everyone to hear from you and be inspired and learn some things and have fun, as you always do.
So are you.
Thank you. Tell us who you are in this chapter of your life. Who is Nneka?
Wow, that's a huge question. This chapter of my life, I guess I start and sort of end everything with a sense of gratitude for the people that make me who I am in this chapter of my life. And I start with my amazing children, of whom I have 3. I call them my 3 wishes, Ali, Alexander, and Christiana. They are everything. They are everything to me. Everything that I do, everything that I am is because of them. So I live in gratitude because of them. Who I am is, as I said, somebody who walked in gratitude. And I look at the trauma, right, that sort of brought me into this work. It's going to sound very odd, but I'm also grateful to that experience because of it, I've been able to do the things that I've done. So who I am today is I'm just a simple woman walking in gratitude. That's who I am.
Thank you, love. Yay. One of my absolute favorite things about you, Nneka, is the way that I feel you embody everything you stand and fight for. So like I think often there could be this dissonance, like if we're fighting for some major movements and activism and all these things, like sometimes we ourselves lose the peace that we're fighting for. And you just beam it. Like every time I'm on a call with you, it's just like I instantly feel I'm on a beach, and I'm just like, yeah, we can do hard work and feel amazing as well.
I completely agree. And I really, it's funny, Marley, you saying this, because I was talking about you last week to some survivors. I was delivering training, and I was talking about how we transform our trauma into something that transforms the world. And I gave you as an example. So, everything you're saying about me, I honestly feel an echo about you. So it takes one to know one. Let's put it that way. That's what's happening.
Thank you. I love it. Give us a little glimpse into, I know you do a lot of things, but give us a little glimpse into what your work is. And if anyone's like never heard of Women at the Center or Transformative Justice, all these things, like give us a little window into what it is you do.
Yeah, a little window.
Or a big window, yeah. Or a big window.
Well, let's just open it and see what comes out. I'm a survivor, and I generally lead with that now, because part of my own journey is moving away from the shame that society has tried to inculcate into that word, right? It's trying to make the victims of the crime feel responsible for the violence. And so once I started embracing the fact that I have experienced violence and that I was fortunate enough to survive it, my whole worldview shifted, right? And so the worldview that shifted actually propelled me to get into social justice advocacy and activism. And the propulsion ended up with me starting a very unique organization It's the first of its kind in the world. It's an incorporated nonprofit that is by and for women and gender diverse survivors of all forms of gender-based violence. And the work we do is really figuring out how to use the lessons that we learned from our lived experiences of violence to bring about healing and to bring about change and to bring about lasting transformative impact. The transformative justice part of the work really, I didn't know that I was a transformative justice practitioner when I started this stuff. But I realized very early on that the criminal legal system that currently exists and is the sort of the one-stop, only stop that many people have on their road, I realized pretty early on that that criminal legal system doesn't work for survivors. And I know it also doesn't work for people who have harmed. And so in 2016, we received some funding from the federal government, the Department of Women and Gender Equality in in Canada, it's the federal government, it was a 3-year project for us to find an alternative model of justice for survivors of sexual violence. So we did what we call a kaleidoscope of data, which is a really multifaceted data collecting, information gathering activities, again, centered on survivors. We did one-on-one interviews with women who'd been raped and had reported. We conducted focus groups with women who'd been raped and didn't report. We attended courts, sexual assault trials, to see whether what we knew, the harmful practices that we knew were happening, we just needed a sort of ethics approved proof of that. So we attended sexual assault trials. We conducted really extensive social media reviews, Twitter, watched films, listened to podcasts to try and understand the social discourse. And this is around the time of Me Too. And then we also did secondary research to try and see what else was out there. What were other communities in other jurisdictions doing? And the one that really, really resonated with us and spoke to what we were hearing from survivors, from our members, was a transformative justice model, which came from, and I always have to give a shout out to the Black women predominantly in the United States who were the progenitors, the creators of transformative justice. People like Mimi Kim, Beth Ritchie, girl crush, absolute girl crush, and as well as trans activists and disability activists who use transformative justice because, again, the criminal legal system is not a safe site, a safe space for Black women, trans women, women living with disabilities. So they came up with their own model of community accountability and recognizing that in order to really heal people, in order to stop the violence, we needed to move away from shaming and blaming and finger pointing and shutting down communications, especially with people who have harmed, and instead wrapping them with love and kindness and compassion. And all of that, Marley, all of that was like, it was music. It was music that my heart had been singing. And I thought, of course, this makes sense. So we went about incorporating what we'd heard from our own research and came up with a transformative accountability and justice model, which again is based on wrapping the survivor with love and compassion, as well as wrapping men who have harmed with love and compassion. And people hear this and think, what the fuck are you doing hanging out with men who... I think you can't change them. You can't change anything if you don't bring them into the conversation, if you don't help them understand.
Yes.
That was a very long way.
I'm so here for it. I'm so here for it. And I imagine many of the people who listen to this podcast or have been following my work have heard a lot about restorative justice and my own story. And this is a different lineage, a different model, but so closely related. And we've talked about before, like the core values of this, like shifting away from shame and blame and into that love and embrace and actual healing and repair and everything. Like this is such a part of it. And it's just the way you talk about it is so important, because it shows that like this is something that is so grounded in this really beautiful wisdom and healing. And I think a lot of the time, like you're saying, people are like, what now? You want to like sing Kumbaya in a circle with the person who harmed you? And it's like, it's so much deeper than that. And as you were saying, it's like, it's an acknowledgement of how the criminal justice system has failed so many, especially marginalized communities. So thank you for sharing that. I'd love to do a little backtrack and just, I had someone ask me the other day, like they were like, Marley, I read your book, your poetry after sexual violence, and like witnessed you in that deep, deep, deep grief. And now I see you like shaking your booty on Instagram and doing all the advocacy stuff. And they were like, that's amazing. And they were like, I want to know more about what happened in between. And so whatever you're comfortable sharing with us, Nneka, like what took you from that place of like dealing with that violence into doing this incredible, epic, fabulous work and embodying this like gorgeous energy that you do now? Like give us a little glimpse of that in between, or a big one again.
Okay. Big window.
Yeah.
I think somebody that had a huge impact on my life was my dad. Right. So we were raised by single parents, my father in England, and my mother died when I was like 11, 12. And so I was raised by this very, very grounded, he was strict, but fair. And I talk about him as the first feminist in my life, even though I didn't have the word to name him, but I subsequently realized that my father was the first feminist that I'd ever met, because he believed in equality, right? And anyway, so when at the height of my experience with my ex-husband, my dad was the one that said to me, you know, don't get into mischief. You need to do something constructive. Do not get into mischief. And so I started thinking of what does not mischief look like, right? Unmischievous myself. What does that look like? And I was actually doing my master's at Osgoode Hall, and I came across an email that was sent to all the master's students from an organization called the Women Abuse Council of Toronto. And their ED, my lovely friend Vivian Green, who was a former ED there, they were running a group of survivors that was called the Accountability Committee, a group of survivors that would meet every month. But this email was asking for people to come and support them in their court watch. And I thought, oh, I could do that. I could do that. I want to do something that's not mischief.
Yeah.
So I sort of signed up for that. And in the process of signing up, Vivian said to me, there is this amazing committee of women survivors, you should join. So I joined, and I started volunteering at the organization. And I guess it's the red nails and the red lips, which I've always been, I call it war paint, right? I guess it's my war paint that, maybe the slight English accent, people just love that, right? So every time there was something they wanted to hear from a survivor, you know, Nneka MacGregor will get trotted out, and I will do my thing and, you know, march off. And the more I did my thing, every time I spoke, whether it was to the news or at a conference or anywhere, I would have, Marley, you would not believe how many other people in the audience would come up to me afterwards to say, oh my God, I'm a survivor. I want to do what you're doing. I am a survivor. This is the first time I'm ever admitting it to anybody. How do I get in touch? How do I get involved? And at the time, there wasn't an organization. There wasn't an organization that was by and for survivors. There were organizations that survivors were part of, but again, in the way those organizations were structured, we were sort of the stepchildren that everybody was embarrassed about, were kept in the back of the room, right? So I started thinking, well, for God's sake, I'm not the only one. I see so many women coming up. We need to do something. We need to mobilize.
Yeah.
Like, we need to start a movement where we are centered. And so I'm an entrepreneur. I've never worked for anybody. I looked around and my dad said, it was waiting for you. There isn't anything because it was waiting for you. So I incorporated the organization in 2008. And we now have over 5,000 members globally. We have chapters everywhere of survivors, doing advocacy and activism, training, peer support in their communities, trying to center, right, the experts, because we, the survivors, we're the experts. With all due respect to everybody else who thinks that they are. We are the experts. So that's sort of what got me into the work. Why I did it was because, honestly, Marley, I needed a space to breathe it all out.
Yeah.
Right. I needed a space where I can root myself, plant my feet, and breathe. It is about catching my breath and doing it in company of people who, just like you're doing, right? When you're talking to a survivor, you don't have to say much. They get it. They get it. And I didn't want a space where I would be, again, that shame and blamed for the violence, because it's not my fault. I didn't do anything. And I felt there were really critical messages that survivors needed to tell other survivors, critical messages that survivors needed to tell system players, the critical messages that we needed to tell society as to how to make things better and different. So to me, it was a place to park my anger. Let's put it this way. I needed a place to park my anger. And the organization was a vehicle that allowed me to do that. And in the process, I honestly, it sounds really, really cliche, but in the process, that was where my healing began and has continued. I've never, done the counseling stuff. I'm not knocking it. But I've never done it. I just found that the activism, the supporting other survivors, engaging with others, that's just beautiful. That to me is where I catch my breath and I find my smile, right, is hanging out with other people who get it and get me.
Yeah, I love you. I want to pick up my computer and spin you around.
But I want to hug you. So let's do it virtual.
It's amazing. It's amazing. It's so inspiring. First of all, I love that your dad was has such a gorgeous influence of feminism in your life. And I'm sure that some people listening are like, wow, I needed to hear that exists. So yay for your dad. Love to your dad. And just so inspiring. And in my own unique way, I feel you. I remember, for me, it started with writing. And I remember having this thought of, I need to put all these destructive thoughts somewhere other than my head. So I'll put them on paper.
Yep.
And it is such a powerful reclamation. And I actually love this because I know that so many people that I'm connected with almost kind of separate our healing from our impact. There's almost this idea I can't make impact until I'm healed. But so often the healing comes through the impact. So what has been really gorgeous and empowering? What is the most rewarding part of what you do? And I imagine sometimes there's a lot of challenge and intensity and trauma, but I would love to hear what has been gorgeous about this.
Honestly, I would say that there's been more gorgeous than not. Otherwise, I don't think I could wake up in the morning and have a smile on my face, right? So I think that you're absolutely right around, people who think that there is a point in time where you're healed and now you can start. There isn't.
Yeah.
Right, there isn't. And anytime you feel you're ready, you are. Right. So for me, I felt I was ready in the thick of it. We were in criminal courts, right? My children and I had to testify. to the last assault. So we were in criminal court. We were in family court at the same time because the divorce was happening, child support, custody, equalization, all that stuff. And we were in civil court all at the same time because of ownership of the company that we were running. So I was dealing with, each one on its own is huge, but 3 at the same time. And then raising 3 little kids, right? 15, 10, and 5. And not having money, and all my family's in England, and not having sort of that immediate support. It was a lot. But I had some people, in the sector, in the gender-based violence sector, say to me, Nneka, wait until it's all done. I'm thinking, what the fuck am I waiting for? Mm-hmm. I don't have time. I don't have time to wait, because as I'm waiting, women and children are dying.
Yeah.
As I'm waiting, women are being sexually assaulted. As I'm waiting for my healing, shit is still hitting fans, right? Mm-hmm. So I didn't have the time or the luxury to sit and sort of navel gaze, internalize it and think about. No, I didn't have time for that. And so I think about the impact. How many women? It's like each woman that I have met is like a ripple. Right? It's like a pebble you drop in the ocean, and then the ripples, the waves of it. So I touch one woman, I say something, it resonates with one person, but it doesn't end with that one person. Because the positivity that comes from it then ripples to beyond her, to her friends, her family, her community. So I think about that impact, that for every one person I reach, I'm actually touching multiple human beings. Mm-hmm. And I just think, and it isn't a vanity project, because as you know, this work is hard. Mm-hmm. It isn't a vanity project at all, but it is so rewarding to know that I'm doing something with my time on this earth, something that is constructive. And I've managed, and it's personal, I've managed to create something where when I go to sleep, I sleep like a baby, right? Mm-hmm. Despite all of the, I know that it's still going on, but I know that I'm doing something. I am having a positive impact on it. And so I love the question. I really love the question, because if I hadn't thought about that, right, the ripple effect and the impact that I'm having, I think I would become despondent. Mm-hmm. I would, sit and question what's the purpose? Why is it all? I sit on the Ontario Domestic Violence Death Review Committee that looks at femicides, right? Well, homicides, but usually it's the killing of the woman by an intimate partner. And I'm also part of the Canadian Femicide Observatory for Justice and Accountability. So I'm giving shout out to both organizations, rocking work. But the focus is on the women who did not survive. Yeah. Right. And so I start off by saying, I walk in gratitude. I am so profoundly grateful to the goddesses that I survived. And so I feel this obligation to do something with my life that can impact.
Mic drop.
Just whatever.
Yes. It is so profound, and I feel with your organization, and the reason, like, you shared this gorgeous explanation of the work you do, transformative justice, and when I said, like, I want to reel it back, because I feel such a clear thing with your organization, the work you do, of like, it comes literally right from your heart, like right from Nneka's heart, right here, right now. So I was like, walk us through that whole, like so silly, but like Care Bear beaming the heart beam out like into the world, like what? Walk us through each piece of that. So it's so inspiring, and I also think it's so vastly different from the burnout that we see so often in this space of social work. And this is something like, I was disheartened by that pretty quickly. And I kind of retracted from that world for a while, because I was like, on average, 5-year burnout rate for people who are wanting to make the world more safe and loving. Like, why does it have to be that way? And you show us and you tell us and you act, and like with your work, you demonstrate that it really doesn't. Like, you are fulfilled by this. Yeah.
I got to tell you that I'm really glad you raised that thing about burnout and coming from the heart. A colleague of mine was talking about social justice work, and she was actually talking about it in the context of working for doing initiatives that centers Black women, as an example. So she said that it's heart work, not hard work. And I thought, holy shit, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Because that's how I feel. And I tell my staff, I tell our placement students, I tell the volunteers, I tell our members that to me, leading with kindness and compassion is the only way to do this work. Actually, the only way to do any work, whether you're making widgets or you're doing, brain surgery, leading with love and kindness and compassion. And it starts with love and kindness and compassion for yourself, right? And being good and gentle to yourself. Because if you're not, then it's going to be pretty difficult to be good and gentle to other people. So I start, it's a personal journey, right? And then once you're good and kind and loving and compassionate to yourself, it becomes easier to give it, right? To give it out. And I tell my team that the reason why, and you met them when you came, you and your lovely mum came, the level of laughter and sisterhood and camaraderie that we walk with. Wine is also a very good thing.
And you also had cake. You also had cake
and popcorn.
Yeah. Yes.
And popcorn. All of that stuff is nourishing. But it is about coming into a space where you can feel genuine sisterhood and that people around you have got you, right? And it's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to make mistakes. We all make mistakes, but nobody is going to throw you away, right? Because you made a mistake. And it's the same philosophy around the transformative justice. We don't throw people away because, none of us are perfect. None of us are perfect. And if we want people to see us and really see us as fellow human beings on the earth, we need to be seeable, right? By showing your love. So yeah, I think why I haven't burnt out is because I don't walk with anger towards people. I walk with anger towards the system, don't get me wrong. I think the system sucks.
Yeah.
I think the system, especially white supremacy and misogyny, is hostile and toxic to everybody, including white cis men who generally are. It's toxic to everybody. So I'm angry at the system, and I use my anger to be subversive and get in there and uproot shit. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Anger can be such a superpower. I
it
think
is.
Such a superpower. I think women especially were taught like, don't do that anger thing, like keeping it, whatever. And it can be the healthiest thing for our world.
I love it.
In this way. Yeah. Okay, so you said something about you said many beautiful things about not throwing people away, and it made me think of, and this is really the same as the punitive system, it made me think of cancel culture and how many people are afraid to speak up and to do some really beautiful heart work in the world. Love that term so much, because they're like, I could get it wrong. Yeah. And I see the parallels. I'm like, well, that's just the punitive system on social media. Yeah. So I mean, what would you say to anyone who's like afraid to speak up because of cancel or punitive culture?
Yeah, my other life, the other part of the work I do
Yeah.
is I run a consultancy, and that sort of does equity, diversity, and inclusion work, right?
Mm.
And myself and my associates and the partners in the firm are predominantly Black women, but BIPOC consultants. And I can tell you that in the last year, right, so since the murder of George Floyd, and there was, the Black Lives Matter movement, and organizations were scrambling to put out posts, supporting Black lives. And some of it was performative, right? And some of it was genuine. One of the things that we've been talking about is precisely that. The fear of saying something or doing something and getting it wrong, and then people calling you out. So in that work, as well as in this gender-based violence work, my whole thing is I would rather engage in conversations with people. Tell me what you think, tell me what you feel, and then we can talk about it. Come into the space, into the conversation with a genuine, from a place of good faith, right? And we will meet on that good faith arena, and we will discuss. And if you say something that is problematic, I have no interest in calling names, because that doesn't get anybody anywhere.
Right.
It just shuts people down. So I am not a fan of that practice at all. I am a fan of accountability. I think that's huge. So if you do say something that is inappropriate and somebody's explaining to you, be big and own it. Own it. But people should not be silencing, because that silence, in the silence is where the bigotry resides, right? If we don't get to talk about it, if we don't shine the light on it, people never learn, people never grow. So shine the light, say it, and then we'll talk. And through that human exchange, I think that's how change happens. That's how lives are transformed, through that exchange. So yeah, it's a long way to say I don't believe in cancel culture.
Yeah. Cancel culture.
Exactly.
No, I'm so
we should hashtag that.
Yes.
Hashtag.
100, get some t-shirts. Yeah,
I love that.
I feel that so much, and I feel in that there's space to be imperfect, and I could be wrong, but I think that humans are not 100% perfect 100% of the time. And I think that the expectation to be 100% perfect 100% of the time is so harmful. And I just really appreciate that, the love that it takes to say, like, come to the table, show up, bring who you are, and we'll approach this with respect and care, and that ownership. Can you define accountability for us in the way that you define it? I feel like a lot of the times, for example, when I talk about my own case with restorative justice and I say, we didn't go to criminal trial, we did an accountability process, a lot of people say, oh, so he got off on nothing? And I think there's such a lack of understanding around that word. So if you could share a bit.
I think accountability is, to me, on par with the notion of accountability is equal to that of justice for me. Because to be accountable means an acknowledgement of the harm that you caused. The intent is, this is interesting, I should write a thesis on this. Your intent is irrelevant, right? To me, in the transformative justice process. In the criminal legal process, intent is central, right?
Right.
But in transformative, what you intended is not at the crux, it's not at the heart. It's the outcome, right? It's the harm that was done. So there have been processes where the individual that caused harm will say, well, I didn't mean it, or I didn't know, and she didn't say no. And all of that might be true. All of that, we give them the benefit. It might be true, but that's not what is at heart, at the issue. What we're here to do is for you to see this person to whom your actions, whether you meant it or not, your actions resulted in deep harm. So what we want you to do, what accountability looks like, is for you to stop and listen and hear, what that action, those actions of yours actually did to this individual, and how that individual is now moving through the world as a result of your actions, whether you meant to harm or not. The fact is, the outcome has been harmful. So accountability is somebody who stops running away from acknowledging that their actions have caused harm onto somebody else. That's number one. Secondly, accountability looks like somebody who accepts. So you acknowledge and then you accept that because of me, I did something that harmed or hurt this person. That's the second part of acknowledgement. And then the third part is a sense of ownership, right? That I'm going to take responsibility and then commit that going forward, I will do my bloody best not to do that thing again to anybody. So it's a process. Accountability is not a one-stop, endpoint. It's a process that somebody who is caused harm goes through, navigates, in order to come to this sort of aha moment. And that aha moment, when they get it, when they acknowledge it, it is actually the most liberating. It is a liberation for them. It's a freeing, it's a freedom for them. And the work we do predominantly is about male perpetrators, men who have harmed, and the victims of the crime are overwhelmingly women. I'm not saying that women don't harm, but overwhelmingly in our line of work, the aggressor is male identified and the survivor is overwhelmingly, again, woman identified. So in that realm, in that space, our work is helping men engage in these conversations. Also, well, not also, but just from an understanding that we are not here to blame them, number one, for all the wrongs in the world. We're not here to shame them into anything, but we just want to engage them because we understand that the process will bring healing to them. That hurt people. Recognize that for a lot of the men who use violence, they themselves have experienced trauma and violence and don't have a way to deal with it. So they, lash out on others. So we want to interrupt, and accountability is the process of interrupting that continuation, that cycle of violence. And it's so powerful. I'm preaching to the choir. Marley, you know this.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It's so bloody powerful.
Yeah. It's life-changing work. And I remember having this moment where I realized, like, okay, this violence, similar to what you're saying, or same as what you're saying, Nneka, like this violence in a way changed your life from victim to survivor to activist. And we hear that all the time, that those who are harmed, we take our pain and we turn it into epic purpose. And we have this empire of change and inspiration and hope and healing. And I remember having this moment of, oh, if this trauma could be the catalyst that changes my life, it can be the perpetrator, the person who caused harm, can it be their catalyst as well?
Beautiful.
And I saw that. I wish I knew more about what that outcome of that was, or the ongoing outcome, but I saw that in that moment and I was like, this makes so much sense. it's this huge, what's the word, cataclysmic? I don't even know what that means.
That is perfect. Perfect.
It changes things. And I love the way that you explained it. And I think so many times it's so far out of what we've been taught with the criminal justice. You're good, you're bad, you did this, you go to prison, that it's so hard for people to wrap their heads around. But the way you explain it, it makes so much sense. And I think back to the example that we were talking about of cancel culture and what it takes for someone to own it. And if someone says something problematic in the room and they own it and they go through a process of education and accountability and transformation, that's going to be much better for everyone than if you said, go sit in the corner for 30 minutes and come back later. Like, what changed?
Nothing. Absolutely sod all has changed. Nothing.
Yes. Okay, so this stayed with me so much, Nneka. Something you said when we were on the amazing meetings that you arranged for the National Action Plan to End Gender-Based Violence, which I was honored AF to be a part of. Something you asked, I won't get the exact wording, but it was something like, if you had a wand and you could like create your vision of the world, you know, what would you do? What would it be? What would it look like? Which was so friggin' beautiful. So this is a massive, massive question, but what would your vision of the world be, Nneka? What would you do with that wand?
Wow. See, it's easy to ask the question.
Yes, I know.
So much easier. I think, and it actually, Marley, honestly goes back to why I do the work, why I started doing the work, why I continue. It's because of my kids, who I'm really excited about the possible, the grandchildren that's going to be coming any minute now. I hope my son, Alexander will watch this and roll his eyes because he will think I'm talking to him and his beautiful, brilliant wife, Ellen. But I'm just talking about grandkids in general, not just mine, but others. It's about generational impact. So if magic wands were being waved, what I would want to see is a world where my daughters, my daughter-in-law, my granddaughters, my grandsons, my gender diverse offsprings, generations, for them, this is like a history lesson. It will be similar to conversations of, did you know there was a time when people thought the earth was flat? I want that to be the world that my grandchildren are born into, where violence against women, violence against trans women, violence in general, right? That's based on how you identify on the gender spectrum. That is a thing of the past. The one will also extend to the whole racism. And our tagline, Women at the Centre's tagline, is transforming our lives and eradicating violence against, or gender-based violence against women. I've had conversations with people who said that word eradicate, you need to get rid of it. You need to use words like reduce or lessen violence against women. To me, that's my magic wand. Wave the wand and it is eradicated. And eradicate is, I chose it deliberately, right?
Yeah.
It's from the Latin eradicare, which is to pull shit from its root, pull it from its root. So my magic wand is this pulling from the roots of society violence, so that my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren are not, experiencing the trauma that comes from it. And in order for that to happen, I mean, there's no magic wand, but there are superpowers. You said it, that we all have superpowers. So in the interim, we must all use our superpowers to create that world. That's what I'm doing.
Yes. Like my heart is so happy listening to that. And I feel my younger self in listening to that, because there's like, I do, because there's like this beautiful, sparkly eyed courage to dream and hope and vision. And I think for so many people, like people tell you, eradicate, too big, too much, impossible, lower the goal. No, it's not. And you're saying, no, this is what I want. This is what we all deserve.
Yep.
And I just think like, I'm just so grateful that everyone who's listening to this, including myself, like gets to hear that, because it's so more than refreshing. It's like pouring water into all these like dehydrated people that are just like, oh, I needed to dream like that. So thank you for holding that throughout your life.
My pleasure. And again, it would be really conceited of me to sort of present as if I do this alone. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I could not have done 1/10 of this by myself. And so, you know, I started talking about walking in gratitude. I constantly am giving gratitude to people who hold me.
Yeah.
Right. I talk about my kids. My staff are fucking amazing.
Yes.
Absolutely spectacular. It's like it's bigger than a community. It's family.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I couldn't do this work without them. We are constantly blessed with placement students who are so thoughtful. And again, so it's like this is what you attract,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, and then the people, organizations, but specific individuals in organizations in this gender-based violence sector, there are some of them who are just, you know, I talk about girl crush material, amazing, absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And I know that to create that world, you need many of us, so many of us. And I'm just grateful that there are so many of us doing this work. And you, my lovely, you know, people don't know this. And I don't think I told you this. Do you know how I found you?
I kind of, no, I don't. I don't think I do.
Yeah. So my first wish, my eldest Ali, one Saturday morning about 2 years ago, sent me an email of an article. I think you were in Maclean's. I think it was a Maclean's one. You were speaking about your experience, and she read it and then sent me an email saying, you need to connect with this young woman. And so I thought, oh, it's Saturday morning. Can we wait until Saturday afternoon?
You're like, yeah.
But I read it and I thought, holy shit, she is amazing. And if you go back to the email that I sent you, there was an email that I sent, and I think I said, I think you're fucking amazing. And we need to get together because I want to support. I want to know what you need, right, in order to amplify your voice and your experience. So yeah, you're talking about other people and the mark that they are leaving in the world. But you, young woman, are spectacular. Girl crush material. Again. Girl crush. Because all the stuff that you were saying about the kindness, and it emanates from you. It radiates. And I think that's why you are doing so well, is because you are genuine. And it comes across. So I see you. I see you.
Thank you, Nneka. Again, I'm like, I want to spin my computer. I do.
For that.
Thank you. I'm so excited to hang out in person soon. And like, this has been the best. This has been the best. I know that people listening are deeply moved and educated and empowered and inspired. And how can they connect with you? How can they support your work, or even like get involved? Yeah, anything you want to share like that?
Yeah. So I should tweet more. I do have a Twitter, and I don't tweet as often as I should, much to my anyway, my team they get on my asked about this all the time. So they can find me on Twitter at Nneka MacGregor. Our website is womenatthecentre.com, WOMENATTHECENTRE, womenatthecentre.com. Go to our website. You'll see, the work that we've done in the past. We've been involved in research, really innovative, relevant research. So, for example, we did the only research on strangulation, women survivors' experiences of non-fatal strangulation. We're doing incredible work with researchers out of University of Toronto, Dr. Angela Colantonio, Helena Hagg, shout out, girl crushes, on the intersection of brain injury, traumatic brain injury, and again, intimate partner violence, because people aren't talking about that. They talk about sports players, but women survivors experience it more. So yeah, go to our website, you'll find the stuff that we've been engaged in, we've done. And then there's, just Google. You'll find all sorts of shit on Google, but you'll also find some of the stuff, that I've done. But yeah, I think it's important. I don't actually like the limelight, to be very, very honest. Despite, again, the red lips and the red nails, people wouldn't know that. Because I think the work should speak for itself. But I do these things because it's important to amplify the work. But yeah, or email me, Nneka@womenatthecentre.com.
Yeah. Amazing.
I will respond.
Beautiful. I'm going to drop all those links in the show notes so people can find it super easily. And again, Nneka, you are such a light and I love you. And I'm so grateful to exist in this world at the same time and to benefit from the incredible work that you and myself and so many people, so many people are doing and have been doing and will continue to do. And like you said, maybe none of this work will be needed. We'll all just be like hanging out, dancing. And
I'm here for that.
Have a good time. Yeah.
I'm here for all of that. Thank you so very much for having me. It's been a pleasure. It's been a blast.
It has been a blast. Thank you everyone for listening. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Sensual Revolution. How amazing is Nneka? Please go ahead and check out Women at the Center in the show notes. Definitely check out the Sensual Wholeness Academy if you're feeling called to reclaim your own sensual empowerment, body love, empowered voice around boundaries and naming desires and all of these beautiful things. Also, if you're looking for your people in this world, community is so important and you're not alone in this journey. So that's what the Academy is all about. Check out the details in the show notes and book a one-to-one call if you want some more personalized support in deciding if this is right for you. Sending you all so much love. Please do leave a review for this podcast and share it if it resonated with you. And I can't wait for you to hear next week's episode.